Well, Rishi Sunak's efforts to break the impasse over the Northern Ireland Protocol have been dealt a fresh blow by who other than, of course, Boris Johnson.
Yeah, he's back. The former Prime Minister says dropping the deal, which would empower the UK to unilaterally scrap parts of the treaty, would be a great mistake.
And his comments come after Mr Sunak, who's our current Prime Minister, of course, has said yesterday that a deal is by no means done.
Let's get some reaction to this now. Political commentator Dr John Coulter joins us now. So, John, here we go again, rearing his head from nowhere. He's back. Boris, rattling his sabre.
Yes, good morning, folks. This was a bit of another Boris bombshell here, because solving the protocol deal in Northern Ireland will guarantee the security of the peace process for, I would say, the next generation. Now, what Boris has done is really thrown a Trojan horse into the political negotiations here. Originally, the protocol was always seen as the European Union punishing the UK for daring to democratically vote to leave the European Union. So we've got to get a solution to the protocol. I suppose a side deal here, if we could use the term dealing here, is that getting this deal on the protocol by the Prime Minister is also about securing his future as Prime Minister. And also as well, don't rule out Boris Johnson comeback. And if there's one way that he can come back to Westminster as a big player again on the political scene, it is to throw this cat amongst the pigeons in terms of the deal. Because the big crisis would be that Rishi Sunak negotiates a deal, but it is not acceptable to the ERG in the Conservative Party, nor to the Democratic Unionist Party here in Northern Ireland. That it must meet the DUP's so-called 7 tests, which effectively secure the Union, secure Northern Ireland's position within the United Kingdom. So there's a lot to play for here. This is a very significant strategic move by Boris Johnson.
John, it's interesting. I was listening to a former ambassador, Irish ambassador to Great Britain, Daniel Mulhode, saying this morning that he thinks that Richie is actually going to get 80% of the deal that he wants. It's that niggly 20% that he's not going to be able to achieve. But just picking up on the point you're making there about opening the door for Boris to come back, of course, the protocol we have at the moment is the one that Johnson put in place himself. And there have been questions raised over Rishi Sunak's future as Prime Minister if he does not get this particular protocol changed through. Are you saying that you actually think that Boris Johnson is using this politically so that he can come back and walk back into number 10?
I have absolutely no doubt, having known Boris Johnson from my days writing for The Spectator magazine, I know that he may come across as the affable buffoon. He is, in effect, a very, very clever political strategist. So from that point of view, yes, the protocol has caused a lot of trouble, but if he is looking to get a foot in the door, quite literally, of 10 Downing Street, using the protocol as a battering ram against Rishi Sunak could be the way that he does it.
John, on the specifics of the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill, I know all about this for my sins, I'm quite anal retentive on this, but just to be clear for our viewers, this gives the United Kingdom the sword hand, as it were, to say, in the end of the day, no, we will not allow supremacy. Clause 20 in particular is the one that keeps the ECJ out of British control. That's a sticking point. And what Boris is saying, isn't he, correct me if I'm wrong, is dropping the bill gives the power back to Brussels. And if Rishi dares to drop the bill, he is basically simpering to Brussels. Is that right?
Yes. The big situation is this. We as a nation, by nation I use the word United Kingdom, we voted to leave the European Union. Brexit is a reality. It just seems that there are those in the European Union, and indeed some within the United Kingdom, who cannot accept that democratic vote. What will happen, just as you saw the gridlock there, what will happen is...
It was broken.
It was.
This bill will ensure that we become a sovereign nation once again. And we're not in a situation where England, Scotland and Wales enjoy the benefits of Brexit, but we in Northern Ireland are left behind as second-class citizens. That is why this bill in Westminster is so vital. And it's really important as well, and I cannot stress this enough. If Rishi Sunak gets this wrong and the deal is not acceptable to the DUP, Stormont will collapse and we could end up in a very dangerous, unstable position. You only need to look, and the photograph you've got up at the minute is the leaders of Sinn Féin, and we mustn't forget that Sinn Féin is the political mouthpiece of the Provisional IRA. They love the protocol. So it doesn't stand to reason, or it stands to reason that you don't need a PhD in politics to work out that if the IRA's political wing love the protocol, then it's danger to Northern Ireland, the Union, and the breakup of the United Kingdom.
But it also means, of course, that if we don't get some sort of settlement, Northern Ireland goes for another year at least without any proper kind of government from Stormont. Whatever is happening commercially as with regard to the protocol, the nation itself is suffering because what is happening to the NHS there, to education there, to all sorts of other aspects of Irish life. They've got to find a solution, John, haven't they?
Yes, a solution needs to be found, but there is another solution, Angela, that can help the people here in Northern Ireland in terms of the cost of living crisis. Don't forget, the Northern Ireland Secretary of State, Chris Heaton-Harris, was able to bring in emergency legislation which extended the deadline as to when Assembly elections could take place. So, worst case scenario, the deal doesn't work, the DUP don't accept it, they don't want into Stormont. It's not without the possibility, technically, that Chris Heaton-Harris could bring forward legislation at Westminster which would allow the Assembly to be up and running for those parties which want to work the Assembly. Because we badly need an Assembly back again to deal with the cost of living crisis here in Northern Ireland. So basically, there is this, what you might call opt-out clause, that even if we have a protocol deal that doesn't satisfy the DUP, Westminster can still step in and give us a government here. What we don't want happening is that we don't have a government at Stormont and we go back to the bad old days of direct rule, because that might bring in, shall we say, Dublin poking its nose into the affairs of Northern Ireland. We don't want that.
John, I think you've made it very clear where your political ambitions lie. Thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you.
Yeah, I really got the impression there that John was sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
Anyhow, let's move on to our next story.
No. It's good to have somebody saying precisely what they think in this situation, because I think, everybody is muddying the waters here.
Yeah.
And there is no clear path through at the moment. And that's what Northern Ireland desperately needs.
But it does feel like Brexit Groundhog Day. In many ways, we are exactly where we were in 2019 in October. Anyhow, next story, as I said, the Prime Minister